last video I mentioned I was going to be shooting a lot more local stuff to the Mornington Peninsula. Now, the last one I was shooting down in Sorrento and then finished up at the Rye Pier, thereabouts. Now, I said I was going to be shooting more jetties, however, I really felt a need to, I've wanted to do it for a while, is to come back to a rock formation down on one of the Rye back beaches, the ocean back beaches. It's affectionately known to locals as Dragon Rock. Now, you'll see that later when I'm taking a photo as to why. From here it just looks like a big blob of rock out on the rock shelves. Now, the reason I came back here was it was probably the first landscape image that I took that was in that the encroaching of the blue hour as everything's turning purple, and with a 30-second exposure. It was the first long exposure I got with that sort of colour, and it just made me go, wow, you know, this is phenomenal, the colour you can get from landscape photography this time of night, and it's probably the image that hooked me on it. Now, it was taken about probably 3 years ago now, so I decided to come back and just recapture it, just in a bit of different light, and see how we go. There you go, you can probably see why it's called Dragon Rock. Because it's a bit gusty tonight, I'm going to struggle to record audio, so I apologise now for any wind noise that's happening. Yeah, I've just taken shelter back away from the rock again, only so I can record audio, but there's no need to be out there at the moment. I've just had a quick look around for compositions. I already know where I'm going to set up, and just watching the water, I'm pretty safe there, so I just spent 5 minutes out there keeping an eye on the swells, making sure they're not going to wipe me out. So now I'll just basically wait for this sun to dip below the horizon before heading back out and setting up. Just waiting for that beautiful pink and purple hue on the opposing horizon from the sun. That's what I'm here to capture, so fingers crossed it eventuates.
Wish that I could stay, wish for this moment to never go away, but it's all in my mind, and though I know that there is nothing to find, you're a beautiful sight in the summer night, and you can't put up a fight in the misty light.
Alright, hopefully the audio on this comes out alright, and without too much wind noise for you. It's getting quite blowy down here at the moment. Well, you've just seen me where the composition was taken from. Now, what I was using in the composition was a little bit of the seaweeded rock in the foreground. There's a bit of foreground interest, a lot of detail in that. Now, I've used the waterfalls as sort of a brighter leading line into the Dragon Rock itself. And I'm aiming for around about a 5-second exposure, which is giving a nice bit of waterfall without blowing it all out into just a big mush of flowing water. That's the best I can describe it. Look, it's coming up absolutely beautiful. I've lost the pinks in the sky that I was after, but the settings I was running was f11 ISO 100, and that was giving me a 5-second exposure. Now, I took 2 exposures, one focused on the rock itself, one focused on the foreground interest, the seaweeded rock down the foreground, so I really want that to be a part of the image. I want that texture in the final product. So look, I'm really happy with how they've come out. I took both a horizontal and a vertical composition. I feel the vertical works a lot better because it's just pulling in more detail in the foreground leading into the rock, and with a lot less sky, so more of the image is used to carry a lot more detail and contrast to the viewer. So I'm going to pack up now because the filter system is getting sprayed in salt spray. It's as I said, it's getting blowy, so there's a lot of mist coming around at the moment. I'm just going to take shelter as well from the wind. Well, since the audio quality due to the wind was pretty poor when I was down at the back beach, the video itself ended up being quite short, a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. So what I'm planning on doing for you right now is to just go through the post-processing techniques that I applied to the vertical composition I took of Dragon Rock itself. Yeah, just thought I haven't shown you any of my post-processing techniques, so just thought I'd go through something very basic with you. There's a little bit of focus stacking in here, but it's nothing that's overly difficult. So look, here we are in Lightroom at the moment. I've got the two images in their raw state, completely unedited. So they do actually come up quite bland because of the raw capture as opposed to a JPEG that applies some sort of image correction and image manipulation from within the camera. So let's open up the first one. Now just make sure that's the one that was focused on the rock itself, so it is very sharp. So with images such as this, when I'm out landscape photographing, first thing I always do is lens correction. We apply lens correction. I also, it's different to how everyone processes differently, but I tend to apply sharpening now, sharpening of 60 with a mask of 95. Now I adjust these later on if need be, but you can see by the overlay here that that's almost spot on anyway for what I require, so it's just a preset that I go to. Noise reduction, I usually apply a value of 10 there. That's just to control the shadows when I pull them up a little bit shortly. Now lens correction's done. Next up I apply contrast. I usually just sort of slide this up until it looks about right around there. Drop the highlights. I usually drop them 100% down, which pulls those skies right back in, and any sort of highlights down here, especially in the water in these scenes, it keeps as much detail in those as possible. Now I'll also bump my shadows up. You don't want to go flat out shadows because it does remove all your contrast that you've just applied. So I just apply the shadows until it looks about right to the eye. It's about there. I like that. Now I increase my whites, making sure we don't blow them out. So if I hold down Alt while sliding this up, you can see where it starts to blow out, but I usually pull them back a fair bit from that point anyway, just to make sure that I'm nowhere near that the maxing out of that value. Now same goes for the blacks. You can already see down the bottom of the image there's already a few dark patches, so I'll just pull that down a little bit more. That's alright, that's just increasing the contrast anyway. Now I'm liking the amount of contrast in that. I'll tell a lie, it's probably a bit too much. I'll drop contrast just a little to keep it more balanced, and I actually like where that's at the moment. Alright, because I deliberately use in the foreground this seaweed down the bottom for a fair bit of texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply clarity of 10 just across the whole scene. It's just bringing out the extra detail in the rock itself, in the waterfalls that are coming over the edge of the rocks, and also down here on the seaweed. It's just maximising that detail in there. Now the colours, the clarity, not the clarity, the vibrance and saturation. Again, it's a very personal thing, but you don't want to go overboard and pull in way too much colour there. It's just I try to avoid that. I try to keep it nice and balanced. Funnily enough, I usually try to go for how it looked on the night, plus a little bit more, just to pull in a bit of extra colour. Now to me that's looking quite nice at the moment. What I want to do next is I want to pull the sky down. Even though I was running a graduate neutral density filter, I want to keep that sky quite dull compared to the rest of the scene, so it also actually accentuates all the colours that are in that sky, those beautiful pinks and purples, and we're getting that touch of blue just here. So one stop down for the sky, it's starting to look nice. Increase the exposure a bit just to compensate for that. Now what I want to also do is just highlight this center area, because I'm trying to make that the center focus, the rock itself and this waterfall region. So what I'll do is I'm also going to apply a radial filter around about a -0.6, might help if I invert it correctly. And we just want that to be around about there. Just keeping that foreground textured but dark. So that sort of leads you in, you know, the texture's a nice lead in at the bottom of the image. This water then leads you up to sort of the middle of the image where the rock is, and I'm quite liking where that's at the moment. Now, I better do a quick bit of sensor spot cleanup. Please tell me you all do this as well, because I've really got to get my sensor cleaned. It is disgraceful at the moment. It's not showing up too much in this image because there's a lot of detail in the bottom 3/4 of that image. I don't need to clean it up down here, but that, yeah, my sensor's getting very dusty, so time for a clean, I think. Quick check on detail. That is very detailed in the amount of clarity around that rock. I'm happy with that. As I said, the only downside is this foreground here, but that's where we are getting to our focus stacking, and that's why I took multiple images. I think I focused around about this section here on the other image, and this image was focused right on that rock. Now, because of the depth of field, looking at the sharpness here, I'm getting good sharpness from around about this point where the mouse is all the way to infinity. And what I'm going to do, keep it nice and quick, go to the second image which is focused on the foreground, apply all previous adjustments. Boom, nice and quick that one. So the two, just switch between the two, make sure the exposure's right. Because it was at that time of night, this one looks a little dark, so what I'll do is just bring that up to 0.5, actually I'm going to go 0.6. How we're looking there, that's almost spot on. I'm just basically staring at the Dragon Rock itself as I'm adjusting, as I'm flicking between the two. Beautiful. That's absolutely spot on. The next step is to send them across to Photoshop and do the focus stacking there. So let's get into that right now. Finally in Photoshop. Just a quick one. Anyone who uses Photoshop and Lightroom, do you have major issues with it running quite slow on Windows 10? Because I've recently spent a lot of money building up a PC to be able to handle this processing, and it still just seems to be with the Adobe products, it still takes a long time to load them up and pass images to and from them and such. It's, yeah, anyway, that's my issue. Alrighty, now what I'll do is I'm just going to work out which is which here. So that one on the bottom is foreground focused, and the other layer comes up as background focused. So I'll just rename those so I know which is which, and I know what to work on and what to blend in. Alright, so all I've done is open them in Photoshop as, oopsies, ignore me, as layers. So you can see I've just named the layers. I'll put the background as the main one, and what I want to do is blend in the foreground just to increase the sharpness of what I need increased. So what I'm going to do is just simply hold down Alt, click on the layer, so that opens up a negative layer. So what I get the fun of doing now is just simply brushing in, what have I got, a flow of 10. What I'm going to do is increase that to a flow of 30% initially, opacity of 100%, perfect. Increase the brush size, and I just want to brush in anything in the foreground that was significantly sharper in the foreground focused image. Now I'm hitting the water a little bit, but that's not too much of a concern. Alright, so I'll just make sure that's coming in. So that's nice and sharp, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, funnily enough, that's almost done. What you can see here is a little bit of duplication between the two, because when you focus on the foreground and on infinity, there's a little bit of misalignment between the two focal lengths as you're adjusting your focus points. Now the good thing about seascaping is when you're blending the two, because of all this water on the screen, because that removes detail from the rock and provides a nice smooth sort of transition, what it allows you to do is just blend and use that as a blending point, I guess you would say, if I blend across there, you can't notice any duplication between the two images because it's right on that point of where the water is. So it makes it very simple for focus stacking for seascapes. Here's our image, guys. That's focus stacked already. Did I focus stack it all in here? I'm not sure. We'll just brush over that to make sure. Yep. That's done. As simple as that. That's all I do as far as the focus stacking goes. Nothing too fancy. We've got the image there. It's, you know, nice bit of foreground interest there. White water leading you into the waterfall, which then leads you onto the nice highlights on that rock. Got a touch of colour in this sky. I'm absolutely stoked at that image, guys. That's, yeah, very nice. Funnily enough, that's almost exactly what I had in my mind before I headed down there on the night, and it's come up absolutely superb. I'm, yeah, stoked with that one. So we'll just simply save that. We'll exit out of Photoshop. And that now shows up in Lightroom. That's our TIFF there. The Photoshop export. There we go. Finished. Quick check. Beautiful sharpness down there. Leads into very nice sharpness on the rock. And I'm done, guys. So there you go. A quick insight to my post-processing. Nothing overly difficult, nothing fancy. Just controlling your highlights, bringing out the colours where you think they need to be brought out, and just ensuring you've got good sharpness and good detail throughout the image. So I hope you've taken something useful out of that. If not, oh, look, even if you have, feel free to leave anything in the comments, guys. Any questions you have, fire away, and I'll answer them as soon as I can, guys. So thanks again for watching, guys, and look, I'll catch you around. Cheers.